we're talking about addiction, right? And substance abuse in general is something that in America is in the world, it causes a lot of damage, not only to the person that's in it, but to the surrounding environment. And I know that Daniela, you recently worked in a place for recovery, and well, one thing that I wanted to first touch on: do you think that this whole quarantine, due to the global situation that's happening, do you think that this has made it worse for people that have addictions to relapse or to make it worse, given that you have to stay home stuck? There's less jobs. Also, maybe depression plays in. Do you think that's a factor that helps?
Yeah, for sure. In my own personal opinion, I think so. There's also a lot of people are stuck home, and sometimes home is the worst place for someone to be. They might be dealing with an abusive family member, or they might just have a really bad home situation, and now we're forcing them to stay there. There's also people that, a lot of parents have resorted a lot more to day drinking, now that those lines are a little blurred just to deal with the kids at home. And yet, like, a lot of people are just stuck with their own demons at home, and that can be a very scary thing for many. Being stuck somewhere is never a comfortable feeling. So we have, at least at my job, like Jesse mentioned, I work in a treatment center. We have definitely seen an increase during the pandemic on not only just addiction overall rising, but also the rates of deaths due to overdose. I believe they're up like 40%.
Jesus.
So it's a lot of people that unfortunately are dying every day. It's really sad. I didn't really know about this until a couple of years ago, but it's a pretty
Yeah.
scary
and
thing
and
to,
I
to know.
definitely agree with you on, like, I myself, like, with this whole pandemic thing, I started drinking a bit more. I wouldn't say
Exactly.
that I have a specific problem, but I was definitely drinking more than usual, and just being home. I remember on, I don't know if you ever saw this movie. I think it's called Clerks, where Jay and Silent Bob are
Jay
on
and
there,
Silent Bob, yeah.
and I think it's
Right.
Clerks too. Maybe they're getting out of recovery, and like they're saying like boredom, like boredom is like the main thing to relapse, some shit like that. So it's like you gotta
Yes.
keep busy. So yeah, like I was saying with this movie
Okay, okay.
Clerks, Jay and Silent Bob.
Clerks too.
Did you see that movie?
I've seen it, yes, I've seen
Okay.
it. Clerks, Clerks 2, Jay and Silent Bob, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
All right.
Um,
All right, so Paul's my man
Cult
with the
classics.
movies. All right, so but I just
Yeah.
remember that he said that like boredom is like the key to relapse or some shit like that. And with all this
Yeah.
time to not be able to go out, work, you're stuck like you said, with your demons. And everyone has
Yes.
demons, but the ones that have
Oh yeah.
more, those intensify even more. I think when situations like this happen.
Yeah.
And
And
like
those
you meant,
demons are deadly, man. That's scary.
now going into like the debate, if it's even one, between it being like something that it's like a sickness, a disease, rather than a person's choice. Like, what do you think about that?
I mean, I think it's definitely a debate. Um, I've had this conversation. I'm an addict in recovery. Um, I personally think it's a disease. I believe it's a disease. I think it's even, I would even classify it as a genetic disease. I have it in my family. Um, I have scholars in my family who had PhDs. I have others. We all range. I'm definitely the black sheep of my family, that's for sure. Um, but I've noticed when I have two older brothers and an older sister, we all have an addiction. We all have something. Mine just happens to be a substance. I have a brother who's obsessed with collecting toys. He has rooms. Picture a comic book store in his whole house, and he just has an obsession. It's more of like an OCD obsession, which I would actually classify addiction as. I definitely can get obsessive and compulsive over a substance. My sister, the way that I saw her with her education to get on her way to get a PhD, just obsessed. She became obsessed with it until like we get there, and then once they're there, they're good. They move on to something else. The thing with substances, there's no destination with it. You know, it's constant grabbing for something that's not there. If that makes any sense.
You know, no, perfect sense. So would you even say that there are positive addictions or like
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I think if everything in moderation, you know, even substances with some people. I know people who can do cocaine on the weekend and they have a full-time job. They got kids who are in nice schools and they can do that. You know, I think as long as you can do it in moderation, if you can.
But then it's not an addiction. I don't think an addiction can be good.
I think addiction, in my opinion, is letting your life become out of and into chaos. You know, not being able to manage your own life is what I think an addict falls under. Now, I think that could also fall into routine though. What if every weekend I do this?
Right, because like, what about like people that would be considered functional addicts? Like, would you say that that's something? Like, I would assume there's people that, let's say, do cocaine 4 or 5 times a week, and they just do it in a way where they still go to work every day. I mean, would that be considered okay, even though they can, you know, quote unquote, manage it?
I mean, that's an addict's dream, wouldn't you say? Like, be able to...
Yes, that's
an addict's dream,
my dream.
You'd say?
If
We've talked about this before, and Paul says, like, you know, he still wants to do the substances. The one is still there, very much so, but he knows he can't, or he's gonna wind up dead. But it's true, like that. We're not even exaggerating.
The want will always be there. The need is no longer there, which I think is where the debate comes in. Is this a disease or a choice? Truthfully speaking, the first one you take, I think, is a choice. You know, I made that choice to pick it up, and once I picked it up, the choice is out the window. I have to do this until I can go get professional help to literally separate me from this substance, lock me up if need be, you know, to get me away from it.
So you're saying like it would never go away? It's an ongoing battle.
This is my personal experience. You know, it's some days are definitely easier than others. I can go days without thinking about it, and then, you know, the other day at Christmas, it was just on my mind. Out of all days, Christmas. You know, Christmas, I have, you know, it's the history of that and Christmas as well. It was just really on my mind on Christmas. I had to talk about it with someone, and then there's days where like I'm fine. What you said about Clerks and being bored, definitely bored is a factor. You know, when I'm alone in here, it's dangerous. You know, as I usually work 8 to 10 hours a day, Monday through Friday, usually on the weekend, and I stay busy. If I'm not doing that, I'm doing something with her, and I'm usually very busy. That keeps my mind off of all this other garbage, you know, but this quarantine, people home alone in the most dangerous place they can possibly be, in their head and thoughts.